Listen up! There is a storm coming! Like nothing you have ever seen!
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the beautiful city of Shepparton in Victoria. And thank you for coming along to the Terminus Hotel tonight, folks. Give yourselves a round of applause. Great to have you. Awesome crowd we've got in tonight. And we're really happy to see everybody poking their heads in. Last time I was here, we had floods. That was the big problem this time, about 12 months ago. And I've only just found out that there are some people still here in the Shepparton area who haven't been able to get back into their houses after 12 months still. Anybody here suffering from that at the moment? No, thankfully. That must be a real burden. Is there a problem with council and approvals, or what? Does anybody know what the issue is with all of this? Insurance. Yeah, tradies. Well, now that is probably the best introduction we're going to get for Darren Bergworth tonight. Nice to see you again. We're brothers in arms now, aren't we?
That's it, mate, back to back.
Yeah, you'll be sharing the bus shortly. Trades. I was reading today somewhere, while waiting for the bus to be repaired, that apprentices are in great demand, and there isn't a lot of young blood coming into the tradie arena. Are you seeing that? You're still working on the tools?
Oh, I've only been back a few months, but my young bloke's an apprentice at the moment, so 17-year-old, about to turn 18 next month. But yeah, look, there's a shortage of trades everywhere. I don't know what it is. There's so much work going on. The government have got heaps of work, infrastructure, roadworks, and there's just buildings going up. The cranes in Melbourne at the moment are crazy. So yeah, I don't know who's buying all these properties or where all the work's coming from, but there is a shit ton of work happening in Melbourne and all around the state, really. So there's a lack of employees, a lot of people sick, and people, I think, after COVID, haven't got back into the matrix. A lot of people have worked out a new way to survive and a new way to live, and they're not interested in kind of getting back on that treadmill. So that's probably part of it as well.
How many issues does? Well, not how many. I know they're facing a lot. Where are the issues being felt hardest? Is it in the plumbing, the electrical, the carpentry, or is it across the board?
Across the board.
Really?
Yeah.
So in 20 years, the philosophy going through school, for instance, when I was going through school, okay, it's a lot more than 20 years ago, but apprentice was the drive, wasn't it? You know, get yourself an apprenticeship and you'll be sorted for life. And it was a great career if you were, you know, good with your hands and not very good with maths like me. Getting a trade was ideal. Problem was I wasn't very good with my hands either. Bloody good with my mouth. That's about all of it. So what do we do now to get young people enthused into the trades? Because without them, the housing crisis gets worse. I suspect feeding ourselves will become difficult, because if you can't get tradies, you know, to build property, how are you going to get them to go out and sit on a tractor doing 3 kilometres an hour for 10 days, planting or cropping? It's just going to be too bored for them, unless there's Wi-Fi in the tractor, I suppose.
Well, this all started back in when Kennett was in and he shut down the tech schools. You know, we used to have tech schools where kids that wanted to go down a trade path would go to a technical school rather than a high school. And of course, they shut those down, and that was the start of the rot. And it's just continued on. And there's always been a shortage of trades. I don't know what it is, and there's a shortage of houses. You know, it costs a fortune to rent, it costs a fortune to build, and the problem never gets fixed.
Graham wonders how many tradies have left Victoria for northern greener pastures.
Yeah, a lot of them ran away.
I know, they came to Queensland, the rent went through the bloody roof, and people still can't get their houses built. So I don't know what the tradies are doing up there. I do know, and I don't know if this is just the nature of the business, this might be something that's quite normal, but I know people in Queensland at the moment who are getting a renovation done, that renovation was quoted to take, I think it was 11 weeks or something. They're now into something like the 30th week, and they found out that the crew that are doing their renovation are also doing 6 other jobs. So they go and spend half a day on that job and then half a day on another job, and nothing really seems to get achieved. Is that the way the business works?
Not if you're organised, no. You know, I know when we first started doing the windows commercially, we turned the industry on its head. We started doing our own glass. We'd turn up 10 blokes, the windows are glass on the same day, and we'd do a backyard blitz and knock it out in a week. And the builder's head would be kind of spinning.
Yeah.
But not everyone's, they try and take on too much work. It's no different to what's going on in the freedom movement at the moment. There's so many people looking for help, and people have got the knowledge and they want to help everybody, and they overcommit and under-deliver, and it's just a sign of the times. That I think everyone wants to, finds it hard to say no, and they want to try and help, but you can't do more than you physically can do. And then when you get snowed under, you become unproductive, and that's just the way businesses run, and that's why businesses fail. They get to a point where they lose control and they try and grow too quick, and all of those things. So I think you need to, and that's what we're suffering with my place at the moment. We're not suffering, but we're dropping back rather than pushing ahead with growth. We're dropping back to make sure we're supporting the My Place communities that have already started, and make sure they get established and connected with the other My Place communities, and we're connected across the country. So we've recognised that we can't just keep motoring ahead. We need to make sure that what we've already done is successful and supported, and is actually heading in the right direction first.
You've mentioned that the last 12 months or so has been a very busy time for My Place. When I was here around 12 months ago, we made the first foray to try and establish My Place Shepparton. Since then, it has continued to grow, not in small part to Sarah's help over there.
Yep.
She's a dynamo. This Golden Valley area is a food bowl. It holds so much potential, not just for the My Place community of this region and regions along the border, but for Australia, really, doesn't it? For the entire My Place network.
Well, it is, especially Victoria, and we're looking at ways that we're developing strategies of getting our own land at some point, and there's some land not far from here. But I think the people that have been shut out of industries or finding it hard to get employment at the moment, we've got to start thinking outside the box and realise that there's going to be a whole market for farmers, especially, to get back in and start actually making some money by selling direct to the consumer and cutting out the middleman, especially the big supermarkets. So we're looking to set up a kind of a structure where multiple people can maybe look at a property, purchase it together, and then live off that property and farm the property. We're in a perfect position up here with the orchards and the pears and apricots and all that kind of stuff, peaches. But not all that stuff gets sold in the supermarkets. There's imperfection in a lot of the fruit, and a lot of it goes to waste. So we should be harnessing that and making sure that we set up preserving facilities.
Yep.
And people start to go back to the 70s where we used to preserve all the time. And there's a market for that fresh produce, that organic produce, that they can make a small business out of it. So I think people need to, and we're all about supporting the micro businesses, the one-man shows, or the very small family businesses, and the farmers, obviously, on the land. We've just got to connect more and more of these people together and create the market for it, and then and grow these new businesses.
SPC, the Shepparton Preserving Company, from memory, is what Shepparton was known for years. It still is. I came past the factory today. Is there still much going on in the factory today? It looked a hell of a lot quiet to when I was working here back in the late 80s and early 90s. But preserving, as you mentioned, huge part of this region with the fruit that comes out of this region. It's seen as an old-timers sort of tool, though, these days, isn't it?
It is.
And I know that you've had classes, so to speak, in how to preserve fruits and stuff. Is that something that we need to go to SPC for? I mean, I remember stories from years ago of SPC throwing tons and tons and tons of good produce out because they couldn't do anything with it, or it had a blemish on it, or it was the wrong shape or whatever. Does that sort of thing still happen? And is there a way that the My Place Shepparton can become a hub to maybe look into that sort of thing? Can we help in some ways, Zara? Because I think that I know that there is a lot of wastage that comes out of there, and it's not bad food, it's not bad product, it's just it's the wrong shape, or it has some little thing to it that they don't like. So farmers also have that sort of issue, don't they? You came across that with apples.
Yeah, apples and tomatoes. There's a tomato grower that I heard a story not long ago that at the last minute, the order that was put in to buy the product off him was taken away, and basically he had to turf the whole lot. So
oh wow.
We've got to work out a system where when these kind of things happen and big business deliberately kind of cut the small business off at the knees, that we can pick up the slack, and we can make sure that produce doesn't get thrown out, and we've got something in place.
Yep.
And this is new infrastructure that we've got to build, the people from the ground up.
Yep.
Unless we start to act, unless we start to have these conversations and get the people in the room, the right people in the room, to work out how we go about this, then it's not going to happen. But we've got a farmer Zoom on again this Thursday night that Penny and I are kind of hosting. We're trying to get more email addresses for farmers that we can get onto a Zoom so they can connect with each other as well, because we all know it's a very lonely industry and an isolated industry, and you're working 24/7 for little reward. And we've got to make sure that these people stay on the land. It's important that we keep our farmers, and we've got to support them in every way we can.
Do we have any producers here tonight? Yeah. So regulatory bodies, the government interruption that you get, does that play a central role in slowing your business down?
Yeah, the wages have gone through the roof, like the lease rate's gone.
Yep.
Things on the way, hourly rate. So,
oh, okay. So that's for picking?
yeah.
So you now pick on an hourly rate, not by what you can actually pick.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that could have ramifications to the owner of the property down the line. And of course, I don't know if I suppose it's the same here as it is up north. A lot of properties put on accommodation and all that sort of thing too. That creates another income for them as well, I guess. What can My Place do here in Shepparton to help locals more? Is there anything that My Place can do to help, can make ease this burden somewhere, somehow?
Is this unionised labour because you've gone on to an hourly rate? Is that through the union?
It's just government policy that
Yep.
they've scrapped the
Government
lease
policy.
rate, system. Yeah, so it's very hard to employ people that don't make the wage.
Yeah.
Even half of the wage, you've got to supplement the rest of it.
Yeah.
On an hourly, and it's not vital. It's just.
But this has always been their plan. The union's done it from day one. Put everyone on the same rate. You can't have subcontractors. And it just brings everyone down to the lowest common denominator, because the bloke putting in 10 windows a day, getting the same money as the bloke putting in 5. And he says, well, what the hell am I busting my gut for, and getting the same money as him? So it's all part of bringing the whole society down to the lowest common denominator. And that's something that we, people, need to turn around and ignore the regulations. And we can do contracts 1 out. But it just takes a leap of faith to stand up. And, I know it's a risk for a lot of people, but at some point we've got to take that risk, because we're just on a slippery slope, and we're not going to win this by bowing down and following these people any longer. And they have no authority. And the minute we all get on that page and realise that we are the ones that hold the power, then we might actually start to get somewhere. And we do deals with each other that's fair and reasonable. So.
I'm just looking through some of the chat suggestions here. If we use pressure from the counter from the Oz farmers and do meat in jars as well. I suppose you can preserve meat like that, can't you? And it's shelf stable. There are a lot of people who seem to be already getting their jars ready. I guess if you're preserving manufacturer, or preserving glass manufacturer, you'd be making $1 these days. But does anybody here know where you would go to buy preserving bottles? Can you get them at Kmart? You know, is it that kind of thing? I guess it is. A preserving bottle's just a seal, isn't it? So as long as you can seal
Well,
it.
you've got your mason jars. That
Oh,
you
yeah, mason
use,
jars,
the
yeah.
mason jars, but I actually just use jars that I've bought food in.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
and you tip them upside down. So I'll put them in a big pot of hot water and
Yep.
boil them for so long. You tip them upside down and it vacuum seals them.
Yeah.
And you cook them for so long. Yeah.
Yeah. So it can be done.
So it
Sir,
can be
you've got a
done,
question?
Yeah, no, it's more a follow-on from what that lady is saying there. That,
Yeah.
I remember back in the days when my mother used to do it, my grandmother
Yeah,
used to
yeah.
do it, using the old cola outfits
Yep.
and so on. And one of the things that I learned from it was the whole thing about the vacuum seal. Vacuum seal is the secret to it all.
The vacuum seal. Is the
Yeah,
secret.
and it's not hard to do. All you've got to do, any of you remember that old experiment we used to do in science class years ago where they'd go and get a 20-litre drum and they put a little bit of water in it, heat it up and get the steam to come out the top, seal it off and then let it cool down?
Yes.
They use it
Yes.
down to
Professor Julius Sumner Miller did it very, very well. He thought it was going to fail and it caught him off guard.
So that's the principle with it. All
Yeah.
you need to do is be able to reduce you cause it to make enough vapor come out the top that it eliminates the air, and then you seal and let it cool, and it automatically goes to a vacuum. Nothing can happen with it.
We've got a great friend of the show who lives up in Queensland. She says that she wants to learn how to repair lawnmowers and fix her or our elders' lawnmowers for the cost of materials only. I think that's a really outstanding idea because there are so many folks today. In fact, there are YouTubers that make a fortune every month by going up and cleaning people's yards for free. They go to the worst house in the worst street with the most overgrown yard. They'll spend 3 or 4 hours doing it, and they'll make 200 times what they would have charged the person out of the views that they get for it on YouTube. Who knew watching grass grow or be cut could be so profitable? So yeah, quite a worry. Getting away from my place, Shepparton, just for a minute. The world is on another precipice tonight. Israel and Palestine are not holding back. Israel certainly not holding back. For the last 12 hours, they've been pounding the Gaza Strip with airstrikes, and they are massing their military on the border. They have recalled 300,000 reservists, and I note that Avi Yemeni has just posted from Dubai. He's on his way ostensibly to report, supposedly. But Avi is a reservist, and I would be very surprised if he hasn't been called up. There are many Australians and many Australian Jews who are in the same position. And I was doing an interview with one the other day and asked a question of him because he was, saying how parochially Australian he was. And without any, foreknowledge of what was to happen, I threw up pretty much this scenario that we're going through and asked, where would you be if Israel called its sons home? And he said, I will go to Israel. So we can expect a lot of Australian young men and women to make their way to Israel. And while the headlines in mainstream media are filled with Virgin and Qantas wanting to do flights to get Australians out of there, rest assured there'll be plenty of Australians on flights going in the coming days and weeks. So I have no doubt Avi will be reporting from there as well, but it will be interesting to see how his reporting comes across and exactly what lengths he will be allowed to go to report. I know that in Israel he will be allowed to carry a weapon while he's ostensibly reporting, but you won't see that weapon, I don't think, on camera unless he's using it. And even then, I don't think that Rebel News will put Avi up, firing shots across into Gaza. However, it is something that's worthy of note, and he is but one of many. The other one of note at the moment, and there seems to be some noise about Simeon Boykov, the Aussie Cossack. He's picked himself up a job with one of the Russian news outlets political news outlet called Sputnik, and he now has his own show on there, so he's doing reasonably well. There is some talk that he'll be leaving the country in the near future, and you can pretty much be guaranteed, I think, that he'll get the first Western interview with Vladimir Putin, probably in the not too distant future. So what his plans are after that, nobody knows. And as far as I'm aware, there aren't too many people caring anymore. He's upset a lot of people with his actions, rightly or wrongly. And I think if the freedom movement is looking for people, we probably need to look somewhere else at the moment. We've seen that what he's about, he's more about self, he's more about getting personal advancement than anything else. And if there's one thing we need in this movement, it is less of that. We need to be thinking of each other, and that's what my place is all about, trying to help each other find a way through this bullshit and support us through those particularly hard times. And you guys do a great job. Your organising team, well, do we call it a steering committee?
Yeah, development team, steering committee.
How many hours a week is your crew putting into that?
Oh, geez, at least 30.
Yeah,
At least.
And that's just, I guess, on the phone main time. There'll be so many more hours that individuals are putting in behind the scenes as well, all to make this happen. Now, the growth of My Place in 12 months has been pretty dramatic, hasn't it?
It has been, but not without its problems, like anything. And like I said, we're slowing down now to go back and try and sort those problems out and get things set up better, more structure in place. And we're developing all the time, and we've got our obviously our Unity Hub now, which is the private platform we've been working on for the last 6 to 8 months. That's had hundreds of hours put into it to build that. It's not fact checked. It's as good or better than Facebook as far as I'm concerned. It's private and it's away from scrutiny, and it's something that I think is going to push My Place to a whole new level. Because there's a lot of people that wouldn't be part of My Place community or wouldn't join because they wouldn't be on Facebook. So we've kind of got rid of that side of it, and we're moving forward, and we're implementing more and more documents. I guess just the idea of what My Place is, because it's always transitioning. It's what we started off as 12, 18 months ago is a lot different than where we're at now.
Yeah.
We're moving away from fighting everything and all the noise, and that's why I don't even know what's going on overseas. I'm not interested. It has no bearing on me. It has no bearing on the people of Shepparton. What they've got to do is get around and meet everyone in their town, in their place, and link them up and start protecting and working with each other.
Sure.
We spend hours and hours, countless hours a week. Every single person in this room, I'm sure, would spend a minimum of 10 hours, if not 20, looking at all this news and worrying about The Voice and worrying about 15-minute cities. And look, don't get me wrong, I've been there. I was all for it. But I think it just sucks up so much energy that we lose the ability to create and problem solve and come up with solutions. And I don't think anyone in this room that I'm just kind of surmising, but has to know any more evidence of what's going on and what our government and the world, these so-called world leaders, are trying to do to the human population of the planet. So we don't need any more stories. We know the gist of what they're doing. We know the corruption. We know the fraud, and we know they're all unconstitutional. So, if we don't have enough information by now, I don't think we'll ever have enough information. We need to just move on from the bullshit, block it out, and people that still want to keep fighting, go for it. And there'll be people in My Places that do want to keep fighting. And that's fine. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but we've also got to have somewhere else to move on for the ones that are sick of fighting and don't want to, and the ones that want to create and start the rebuild now of these new industries and communities. Then we've got to have an avenue for that to take place, and that's what we're concentrating on building at the moment.
And building it, you are brilliantly, can I just say. It's not being outpaced around the country. If there is a My Place that does seem to be lagging or needing help, there is plenty of help available from not just from your group, but from other established groups around the country. And that network is growing on a, we've got a number of them sitting in the chat tonight. Camillo up on the Sunshine Coast is probably one of the biggest movers and shakers in Queensland on this issue at the moment.
Yeah, the Sunshine Coast are amazing. With I think it's probably got 10 or 12 My Place communities on the Sunshine Coast, and they're all working with each other. They're all sharing resources. Producers. They're same at the Gold Coast. Luke down there is really starting to get that whole southern Queensland area together. They're all linked up and working together. They've got a database now of about 180 businesses in their business hub, and we're doing the same thing. As you join our Unity hub, you'll get to advertise your business on there as well. And it's just building a whole new network. And that's the first place we look. We want to give the employment and the work to the people that we know are on our side and that want to move forward and look after each other, and not to these big multinational companies. But once again, it comes down to the discipline of people, and people that just don't have the mental aptitude to actually make these changes and stick to them.
Is it fear? Is it fear, to go into the unknown, to try something new, to not know the outcome?
Well, there's no outcome to not know, really. I think it's more laziness. We're too comfortable in the lifestyle that we've had forever, and it's hard to break those habits. It's just so easy to go to Coles or Woolies and do your shopping. So I think if we dedicated more time to working out how we can move out and stop supporting these multinational globalist corporations, instead of looking for the news or what's going on in the world, people will be a bit surprised. But it's like forcing yourself to get started on a fitness campaign or anything else. We still don't stick at them for more than about 4 to 6 weeks. So nothing's going to change in this country, and people got to understand that nothing's going to change unless we change. We have to be the change, and if you're not willing to change, don't sit around in 12 months' time still bitching and moaning that things aren't getting better.
No.
Because it's up to us. It really is. And we can control so much. Yes, we can't control what's going on with the military, or if there is some kind of white hat thing going on. Who gives a shit? It's irrelevant, right? We've got to do the work that we've got to do. And no one's going to, if they are there, no one's going to come and save us if we're not willing to step up and save our own country to start with. So we've got to take the first step. We've got to get our shit together. We've got to get organised. And if people don't want to do it, I can tell you, we're going to be sitting here in 12 months' time, probably in a worse position than we're in now.
I think that's probably half the case. That must be terrifying to Victorians. You've just got rid of Dan, and Darren comes out and says something like that. What about this new Premier that you've got in Victoria? Have we got any rousing rounds of support?
Just like you said, it's another distraction and there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
Okay. But while we've got the opportunity here, Australia exits the WHO while everyone's online.
Yep.
Is everyone aware of that?
Australia exiting the WHO?
Yeah.
I don't think we've exited it yet, though, have we?
The campaign.
There is a large campaign to get us to exit the WHO, but I believe in November, I want to say it's November the 23rd, that could be wrong. Malcolm Roberts is pushing this pretty hard too. We go back in front of the WHO again to ostensibly cede our sovereignty to the WHO.
Well, on the 22nd, actually.
22nd, was it?
If we don't respond, they
Yeah.
assume that we're in.
Yeah.
And then in May next year, they vote on the.
So what you're saying is by the 22nd of November, if we haven't responded, the WHO will take it as granted that we are part of their cabal going forward and will allow their control over our medical future.
That's a stepping stone,
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
May next year, they vote on it.
They vote on it. So what we need to do then is to get all our politicians to start talking about this.
Exactly.
And let them know that this is not something that we want. We did this, we mobilised 18 months ago when this came up previously. I want to say 12 or 18 months ago. This decision in November is simply a delayed decision from the last time we put up this fight. We thought we'd won and they delayed it. So, yeah, this is something that we do need to get onto and get onto urgently. We've got less than a month to make impact. And in fact, I will shoot an email off to Malcolm Roberts and Gerard Rennick, who seems to think that, you know, he's got a political solution. Well, there you go. Go and see if you can fix this one. You might get a few of us more interested in hearing other things you have to say. But until our politicians prove that they're not part of the problem, they're willing to work with us to solve the problem, then they are the problem, as far as I'm concerned. So,
well, I would say tacit consent is a load of garbage, and it doesn't matter whether we say that we don't want to be in the WHO or not. The fact, what we've got, in my opinion, we need to just get on the same page, because at the moment it's the voice, then it's the WHO, then it's going to be continually, you're going to be sucked into the matrix, trying to go and fight against all these things and go on your hands and knees with petitions saying you don't want to be part of this, right? We don't need to, I don't believe we need to do that, because it's fraud from the start, right? The so-called government we have there had no right to sign any of these agreements that they've signed, right? They had no authority to do it. So that's the point that we need to get through to the people. The people need to understand these people have no authority. They're criminals. End of story.
Have you tried to get this through to anybody that's Jeb?
No, but I keep saying this, and I said this at the rally a couple of weeks ago when I spoke, and he said that message isn't for today's rally. This is about voting no, not your opinion on not voting at all.
yeah.
And he said that message is for the people down there. And I said, no, it's not. I don't give a shit about those people that want to keep the blinkers on. We've got 5 to 8 million people in this country that are awake to a certain level that know something's wrong. They're the people that we need to get to the next stage.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, that's enough people. If we've got 5 million people implement a plan together as one, it's over for them.
Yep.
Okay, and
Yep.
that's what I'm saying. We've got the knowledge of treason. We've got the knowledge of fraud, and what are we doing with it? We're still taking part in it.
We're just saying, look, it's the government. What can we do? Well, quick straw poll. Who went shopping today? Did you go to Coles or Woolworths? No? I love that. Go to Aldi? Yeah? Darren?
No shopping.
No shopping. Who barracks for Collingwood? No? Anybody watch the grand final last weekend? No? God, he's going to love you. He's going to love you, because these are the distractions. Everything is the distraction. And there is no point, as Darren said, there's no point in stating that you're awake if you're going to run off to the Roman circus every weekend and enjoy it, because that's all it is. And take their bread in the form of the cheap pies and beer that you'll get there.
Oh, not cheap. Nothing cheaper than football.
It was the last time I was there. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So you had another question?
Yeah, who planted some vegetables today?
Yeah, who planted some vegetables today?
Oh,
Look at that.
Yesterday.
That's awesome.
Yesterday.
That's a huge lot of hands
Can I
up.
ask
So
a question, please?
yes, ma'am.
Because I know you're saying we don't comply, and we haven't complied, right, with the yes and the no vote that's going on, right? So there was a lot going around saying people should not vote at all.
Mm-hmm.
But my understanding is if we all sat idle and none of us voted no, the yes vote will win.
That's okay.
You know, is that where we're at? We're basically like.
Yes, because it doesn't matter if the yes
I
vote
don't
gets
think
up.
it's going to make a big difference anyway. Like,
You know, the no vote got up in 1988,
correct.
right? And
Yeah.
we still have a third level of government, and they're incorporated, and they're rolling out the United Nations and World Economic agendas.
Yeah.
So it makes no difference if we vote no. If no gets up, they're still going to do what they damn well please.
Yep.
So the minute we stop playing their game, that's what we need to get to that level.
Yeah.
And now, you know, I'm not telling people what to do at any stretch. This is not a my place kind of thing or directive. It's my opinion. It's my overview of what I believe. And you do it for what you like. I'm not, if you want to vote yes, go and vote yes. If you want to vote no, vote no. But I'm just saying that if we keep playing their game, we'll continue to lose. At some point, we've got to withdraw consent,
Totally
and we'll hold
stop.
our own referendum
Yes.
and a vote of no confidence in these muppets,
Yes.
right? And we need to get everyone on the same page. And we can't have half the people in the freedom movement trying to start a new political party and get in on the inside, which we know that doesn't work.
Yep.
And this is just, it's really, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. We're going to go nowhere. And anyone leading us in that direction, offering that as a solution, I'd be very wary. of their intentions.
They're
That's
obviously
all I'm saying.
they're either not a very deep thinker and haven't woken up to what's going on yet, or they're part of it. They're the only two choices you have when you come across someone like that. So use your own discernment.
I
and-
think, just imagine how
Work it out.
powerful it could be if we could just get every person in Australia not to pay their rates.
Yes, if we could get every person in Australia not to pay their rates,
How powerful would
or
that be?
or their power bill or their phone bill,
That's right.
then yes, it would be very powerful. But we have so many people who've been brainwashed
That's right.
into fear
That's
of what happens. Your credit rating could be, wrecked for not paying the bill. Well, mine has been because I've refused to pay an electricity bill for 11 years. All right, an excessive, ripped off, blind electricity bill. So they've gone their hardest on me, and good luck to them. I know it's not everybody can live like that,
Yeah.
but I chose to because that's the way I push back. It's not the best way. I'll grant you there are better ways you could do this, and I'm learning them. But we all have to find our own way to push back, and at some point we need to coordinate it.
Yes.
Whether that is 1 day a week, 1 week a month, 2 weeks a month, 1 month every 3 months. How many of you are stocked up at home? How many of you could go home now and not have to come out for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Easy.
Right. Just imagine all the money that you would save and that they don't get if we could convince everybody, every one of us that is stocked up, ready to sit out, 2-3 weeks, to do just that.
Yep.
Right? Just imagine what would happen to the government coffers. They would be screaming. They'll be on the phone. They'll be offering you money to come out. And that's the other thing that will come. When we are able to exert some pressure on them, they will come out and offer financial inducement for us to go back on their side.
Yeah.
And many, unfortunately, will take it because of the brainwashing, the greed that is involved in all this. And this is why we have to level up. We have to
That's
level
what's
up
created
emotionally,
the whole lot.
spiritually.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the greed.
Agreed.
God said it. Greed is the worst thing for man. It will consume man, and it does. It drives us, many of us, in every facet of our life, whether we admit it's greed or it's just, we call it a lot of different things. We call it, you're just dedicated to your job, or you're really professional, you're this, that. At the end of the day, you're only doing it because of what it's going to afford you to be able to do in your off time, if you have enough off time to actually go and do anything. And that's where we've been led astray. We should be living our lives, enjoying our lives, and working to benefit our life, not to have a life to work,
That's right.
which is what we are currently doing.
And be consumed.
Yeah, and consume. Yeah, just consume. We create nothing in Australia anymore. We have to get back to manufacturing. And there are big players in this country, big financial players who could help with this. If they were each to chip in $1 million, imagine what we could do with $50 or $100 million in a manufacturing infrastructure campaign. And we give it to this bloke. Right?
That's right.
Well, I think at the very end, at the very least, we'll get a fair use of the money,
Yeah, absolutely.
and it will go where it's needed, not where. And Patrick Dodson, the senator, one of the 11 voices that currently represent First Nations people in our parliament, has come out today and said, there's nothing to fear about the vote, nothing to fear about it at all. He glosses over the fact that treaty is involved and reparations are involved and everything else. Look, at the end of the day, this bloke lives in $1 million house.
That's right.
He's got a 6-figure income every year, and he is in charge of handing out $34 to $39 billion worth of our money to First Nations people every year, and we still have a cancer-ridden Aboriginal lady with 6 kids living on a cement pad outside of Alice Springs getting treatment. Now, when one of these Aboriginal voices in the parliament wants to come out and fix that problem, I'll start listening to them.
Yeah.
But until that time, I believe they should be hung up by the neck until dead. They are thieves who have stolen from their own people. And they are the worst kind of thief.
Well, this is where I feel we must go and vote no to protect these people.
Look, feel free. We can, voting no, I feel the same way. I think we've got to vote no. If you're going to vote, you've got to vote no. I'm also in Darren's court in that I know this is a completely fraudulent thing.
He said he'll put it through anyhow, but
Well, he's come out in the last few days and said he won't legislate it, but when can you believe a politician? You know, there'll be no carbon tax under the government Eileen. You remember that? Yes.
When do they stop lying?
There would also be no GST.
Yeah, no GST, that's right.
Look, I have come across something across the last couple of days, also not paying rates, and no, I haven't paid my electricity bill, I've also done
Good
that,
girl.
doing that. Okay, so what I come across the other day was, I can't remember the guy's name, but basically he says, when you go in, if you don't want to vote, go in, get yourself crossed off, ask to see the writ. They haven't got it, you're not going to participate in fraud. If they do have it, you're again not going to participate in fraud because it's not signed properly.
Yep. I've got a copy of the writ I can show you if you'd like.
How do you get disqualified? Because I don't want my, vote used. I haven't sort of figured that out yet. I have to do a bit more research. But apparently you can get yourself disqualified. You probably get a fine, but like me, I didn't vote last one, I didn't vote.
Yeah.
Well, if you get your name crossed off, then you already voted. That means you voted. So they can then do what they like
Yeah.
with the amount of names that have crossed off. So that gives them a vote if you cross your name
If you
off.
cross your name off,
Okay.
whether you put a ballot in or not, they can make it up at the other end.
But that's Derek Bollard, and he did the same thing in the federal election.
Yeah.
He's the one that actually prompted me to go searching for the writs when I was running as an independent candidate in May 2022, and found that there wasn't a lawful writ. And he actually got a letter from the AEC saying that he was exempt from voting because there was no lawful writ.
But can we get disqualified? You see, I haven't sort of done enough research on that.
Well, you can remove yourself
You
from
can
the voting
remove
roll.
it, yeah.
You can ask to be taken off the roll.
Because I think maybe that is an option. I'm just sort of wondering if enough people did that too. Like if there was, I don't know if this is going to work or not, it's just a thought. But what if that is the case? If enough people said, hey, no, we don't want to participate in this because it's crap, and we all got ourselves taken off, how many would it take before?
75% voter turnout they've got to have for it to be a lawful election.
Yeah.
75%. So if 30% don't turn up,
Yeah.
it's null and void.
Or get it if we
They'll know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a thought anyway.
Yeah. It's something that we've all got to think about, and it's not just an individual choice. Like I said before, we have to figure a plan where we can all join together because it is our strength in unity that will give us the power to overcome this. It's not our individualism or our bright individual ideas. And that's why my places, it's so important because it's not just the people in this room. We now have tens of thousands of people, well, tens of thousands of 10,000 people across Australia whose minds are all being applied to the same problem. And one of us will come up with a solution. There is a great old saying that if you have a problem, ask everybody in the room what they think of the problem and someone will hold the solution in that room. It is from the group that the answers come, and it always has been. We've lost that. We've been individualized, and our greed in part has been fanned to help us, to split us away from the group, the community group. We've been more focused on self and less focused on community, and that is what they want. We are trying to build exactly the opposite. That's why I'm on the road. Everywhere I stop, I hope to leave a seed where my place can grow because, in 12 months, my place has just gone huge from, a few blokes having a few beers one Friday night out the back of Frankston to what it is today is something I'm immensely proud to be associated with and thankful that Darren has allowed me to be a part of. And I will help support you guys here in Shepparton and every other my place in this country. And I know Darren's keen to get a ride in the bus, so he'll come too.
Yeah, and what it's not a direction. Nothing we do is ever going to be a direction. Now, sometimes it can be portrayed or felt that it is, but it's certainly not a direction. Open discussion like tonight, like we're doing here, is what it's all about. So everyone hears everyone's opinion, and then you can go away and say, look, there's so many people are on the same page. It's not just me. We're not isolated. We're actually talking about this, and that's the shutting down of discussion about all topics over the last 20 or 30 years is where we've got ourselves to be so insular, and we're so worried about being ridiculed if we have a different opinion. We don't want to talk about our opinions, right? And that's the stuff that everyone's dropping that fear now, I hope, where we're not scared to red pill people and we're not scared to talk the truth. And that's what we've all got to be. We've all got to have those discussions, and we've got to get in groups like this and bigger groups, hundreds of people, thousands of people, and start. And not everyone's going to be right. No one's right.
Some will be fearful. Some will be very fearful. Like the folks who are just starting to wake up now, and we've got a room full of people who are pretty, deep into the book, I'm assuming. So we've got people who are now coming into the group who are only just starting to, uncover things that you might have learned about 2 or 3 years ago. So it's important that when they make those discoveries for themselves, that we applaud them for it. We laud them, say, "Oh, look, I've known that for years," because you know what it was like when you first got that little bit of information, that little thread that you followed and thought, that doesn't seem quite right. Well, they're at that point, and you know how excited you were when you discovered something. Well, they're at that point. We can't forget that. We will wind up leaving too many people behind if we do that. We cannot afford to leave people behind. But like John Wilson, not a stretcher bearer. We have a war to fight, so people will fall. However, we want to empower enough of them so that they can get themselves back up, or the stretcher bearers that come along behind us can help. But it's so important that we build these unified communities. And when there is a new one opening up in Cobram, let's head off to Cobram. All the people from Shepparton, go and support Cobram. Come up to Echuca tomorrow night, and support Echuca. Get in, meet, network, learn who is in the groups near you. Learn what skills they have that can help your group, and vice versa. And from that, we will win. We will be the community of the future, I believe.
100%. And this rebuild, before, we don't know when the takedown's coming or if it's coming. So we've just got to move ahead with our lives and rebuild the future we want, how we want to live it, abstract of government. And everyone's got their own position of fear. No one here is encouraging people not to pay your rates. I'm not telling people to do that. I do what I do. I tell people what I do. And then people have got their own level of courage or their own level of knowledge, what they're happy to do. And if you don't do anything as far as not paying stuff, that's all right. That's fine. If you never go to a meeting, that's fine. But implement some hard discipline things in your own life as to where you spend your money, what you support, what you withdraw your support from. They're little things that have no risk to you whatsoever, that will make a difference in you moving forward, and your family and your neighbours and everyone else around you moving forward. And they might be baby steps, but I'll tell you, once we get bigger groups and everyone starts to push in the same direction, this will be a massive momentum shift. And I really think that if we can get this happening over the next 6 months, that things will change.
I agree. Well, there's already been so much change in 12 months and growth within the community. I don't know if it'll happen in the next 12 months, but I would hope that in the next 2 years, we might see that growth outside the community, bursting outside, enveloping more, which might mean opening businesses and all that sort of thing.
Well, that's exactly what we need to do. Yeah, 100%. And be that really solid foundation. Build the foundation in Shepparton and every town. It doesn't matter whether you've got 500 or 5,000, depending on the size of your town. But as people wake up and they know there's a really solid, well-structured group that are working cohesively in their town, they will come and join you, right? So build it and they will come. And that's what we're doing. We're laying the foundations now for the Great Awakening. As these people start to wake up, we need to be there. We need to have the answers and the healings and the solutions for them. and kind of get them up to speed of what's been going on, and what we've been doing. So that's why it's critical that we get these communities everywhere, because they will grow exponentially, because we've got a really good, strong government in our corner for us, pushing them all towards us. Every time they roll out a new misinformation, disinformation bill, or a voice, whatever it is, they're going to keep rolling these things out. And while we stay distracted and we're running around in 10 different groups, like headless chooks, spending thousands on flyers and putting them in letterboxes, fighting a fight we don't need to fight. We just walk away and we switch off, and we just say, you have no relevance in my life anymore. And you do it to the nth degree, whatever you're comfortable with. And that's the transition. That's the mindset we've got to start to develop. And no one's going to rush out tomorrow and all of a sudden flip and just be doing this 100%. Well, I still don't need to do it all 100%. But it's a matter of thinking every time we do something, am I moving forward, right? I'm not going to go back into that. I haven't been to a game of AFL or watched a game of AFL for 2 years. And I used to go to 8 games a year with my Hawthorn membership and my kids. Right? I haven't played golf once, I think, in 2 years. I just don't do anything I used to do. So I've changed my life. I've withdrawn from as much as I possibly can, and I spend my whole life dedicated to trying to inspire and give solutions for people to hopefully pick up and come on board and move forward. So I've sacrificed, or not sacrificed. I see it as an investment. I'm investing my time in a different way now than what I've done for my whole selfish life that I've led. So we all need to do that.
It's investing in the future.
Yeah, we invest in the future.
He's not investing in his future. He's got a KTM 250, which is like this 2-stroke motorcycle that's meant to kill blokes over 50, right?
Yeah. And it nearly did.
And it nearly did. No fun at all. All right, so we might just get away from my place very briefly before we end up tonight's show. I just want to mention something that I became aware of just before we came in tonight. Australia, of course, has been providing money to Ukraine. Zelensky is unable to get back into Ukraine at the moment because there are squads waiting to capture him. And he is living it up at the moment in his $40 million mansion in Miami. Australia, of course, is still sending aid. That aid takes the form occasionally of cardboard drones and some tank fodder that they call armoured personnel carriers that they send to Ukraine. We also send vast amounts of money. It's been interesting to note that in the last 24, 48 hours, a number of Ukrainian officials and government contractors have been arrested by somebody for stealing NATO weapons, the weapons that NATO countries have paid for to be used in Ukraine, and are selling them to Palestine. That's going to cause some real issues in the world if that has actually happened. But they believe that has happened, and they've arrested about a dozen people in Ukraine in the last 12 or 24 hours or so about that. So if those weapons have been bought and paid for and are expected by the Palestinians, the only problem now is where are the weapons and how are they going to get them into Palestine? So the world will be keeping its eyes open for those sorts of routes shortly, bearing in mind too that NATO have weapons caches all over the world, and they could simply call up, well, probably not call up Australia, but they could call up a NATO member country and say, send X amount of weapons to this port on this date, and they'll sort it. So if Palestine gets hold of conventional weapons, let's say, then what I said last night about Israel not using nuclear weapons could go out the door. And you might find that they will use a dirty bomb on a good windy day and let whatever happens happen. That would be the most expedient way for them to fix their problems. And we have to understand that when the Jewish nation is threatened, they always take the most expedient way to fix the problem. So this is a very serious issue. This could be the brink that the world has been told we were going to come to. So many world wars were going to be happening and waged or we were going to be brought to the brink of nuclear war so many times. Well, this has the potential to be that problem, particularly if Iran pokes its head up. I think the likelihood of Israel using a nuclear weapon in Palestine is not high, but the likelihood of them retaliating against Iran is pretty high, and should be a real concern to everybody who isn't part of the cabal, because the cabal, of course, will be cheering this on. This is exactly what they want. We see it as a distraction for the most part. I don't believe that we will get to that point, but there will be many people who are fearful that a nuclear war will erupt. Many people I see already tonight, there is people going out and complaining about Albo's support for the Israelis, and so everybody else complaining about whoever's supporting the Palestinians. And now, of course, the Sydney police are saying that they are not going to condone or approve another rally on Sunday at the town hall in Sydney. This after the one a couple of nights ago at the Sydney Opera House, which was also not condoned, and as far as I can tell, was one of the most illegal, brazenly unlawful actions I have seen on Australian streets. And I have one word of warning to people who think you can go out onto Australian streets and do that. Some years ago, you might remember Maroubra. There was a bit of an issue with some Lebanese boys doing stupid things to Aussie girls. That got sorted out pretty quickly. I think there were 15,000 Aussies turned up. If you want to have that sort of a problem, you will develop another Cronulla riot, and Aussies will protect their own. I don't understand how you can have a ute firing fireworks into the sky driving down a main street in Sydney and not be interrupted by police. New South Wales police, we know they're as corrupt as every other force in the country, but how much more evidence do people in New South Wales or anywhere else need that the police are complicit in all of this? And it's not just on our streets here. In Israel, Israeli police are fighting Israelis, waving Israeli flags in support of their own army, protecting their own land. It's getting a bit weird out there, folks. It's getting a bit weird. And I guess there's only one saving grace. Most of those dickheads are not on this country or on our roads. See you tomorrow night in Echuca, folks.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!